77 WABC and Bergen Newbridge Medical Center honor the life of legendary broadcaster and our friend, Ernie Anastas.
Hi, it's Ernie Anastas. You know, your thoughts can affect how you feel. Bergen Newbridge Medical Center is the largest hospital in New Jersey, providing comprehensive, equitable, compassionate, and high-quality emergency inpatient and outpatient medical care, plus mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. The Bergen Newbridge team can address your total health needs in one convenient location. Call 201-225-7130 for an appointment or newbridgehealth.org.
Feisty, fearless, and fair. She's an Emmy-winning journalist from the White House to war zones, telling all sides of the story. This is the Rita Cosby Show. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, there's a lot of news happening. President Trump on his way to Beijing. It's a long flight. Also, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration chief, who works very closely with Secretary R.F. Kennedy Jr., well, he has resigned amid agency turmoil there. That is Marty McCrary. And we've had Dr. McCrary on our show. He used to be with Fox News. Then he moved over. There was a little bit of back and forth with him over a whole bunch of different issues with President Trump, over some of the new food program and some of the policies over dyes and a whole bunch of other stuff. And now he has resigned from the agency. One of the other latest, changes that are taking place there. President Trump also focused on so many things. The stakes could not be higher as he is headed off to Beijing. He left a few hours ago, and it is going to be, I think, one of the most important meetings of his presidency. There are so many things on the table between China, trade, obviously their influence with Iran. And, of course, right now, everything with Iran is sort of in a standstill, if you will. President Trump saying the latest offer is garbage, that there's nothing in there. Sounds to me like he is gearing up for potentially some military action because Iran is kind of baiting him. There's no question. Iran is giving him a half blank offer, and he knows that's not any sort of an offer. And earlier today, he talked with my WABC colleague, Sid Rosenberg, and did a wide-ranging interview. I was talking with Sid earlier, and he got about 40 minutes with the President of the United States, which is awesome. Bravo to my friend Sid Rosenberg. And President Trump talked about the enriched uranium and the plan to get rid of it, because that is what this is all about with Iran. And that's a big focus of what he's going to be talking about when he goes in front of President Xi. They have not met each other in a bit of time, at least on China soil. It's been about 9 years since they were together. And so he's going to sit face to face with President Xi. And she's going to bring up Iran, and he's going to bring up oil, and he's going to bring up all these issues. And President Trump is going to say, bottom line, just like he did with Sid, they cannot have nukes. Take a listen.
Getting back to Iran for a second. Look, I don't know if they're ever really going to stop enriching the uranium. You go back to those two dopes, Obama and Kerry. Sorry, two dopes. They signed that deal. They thought they did a great job. It took Iran
what a horrible deal.
Yeah, one day it took them to actually go back on that deal. But do you really feel President Trump, I should say, forget about the Strait of Hormuz for 1 second, forget about regime change. Do you really feel in your heart of hearts that you can stop Iran from enriching uranium and never build a bomb?
Never. 100%.
Okay.
They're going to stop. And they told me, the Iranians told me, and I deal with them, and they said that we're going to get the dust. I call it the nuclear dust because it's appropriate. It's easier for people to understand. And we're going to get it. The problem is there's only two countries in the world that can get it, us and China, because nobody has the equipment. Because when we bombed it, it was a total, that I was right, it was a total obliteration. The entire mountain collapsed on top of it. And they said, the Iranians told me, they said, nope, it'll be yours. But then they changed their mind. But they did say, because, they demeaned the B-2 bombers. Those guys, every shot hit. Then we sent in Tomahawks from a submarine. They all hit. But every shot hit. And they demeaned the B-2 bombers when CNN starts saying, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. Iran told me that it was so devastating that no country in the world other than us, and they said China, would be able to, has the machinery to be able to get that.
I believe it. Now, one more on Iran, and that is regime change. Israelis want that. And there seems to be this ridiculous rumor. It's been going on for years, created once again, President Trump, by the horrible people on the left, which has you and Bibi fighting with each other every day. You guys are fighting. You guys are fighting. I know that's not true. I know you guys are very, very close, but they seem pretty dead set on regime change. Is that a possibility? Where are we in that situation?
Well, first of all, I get along great with Bibi. We've been partners in the true sense. You wouldn't have an Israel without the both of us. And you wouldn't have it without me. If I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal signed by Barack Hussein Obama, have you heard of him? If I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal, it's one of the worst deals ever made, they would have had, it was a path for a nuclear weapon, and there was nothing you could have done to stop it. They would have had a nuclear weapon 4 years ago, and they would have used it on Israel, and they would have used it in the Middle East and maybe beyond that. So it was good. No, but the relationship that I have with Bibi is excellent.
And that is definitely true. How about that line where he just said, you know, you would not have an Israel if it were not for me and Bibi. And they will not have nukes under any circumstances. That's what this is all about. And that's why that offer that came back from Iran to President Trump's offer saying, here's our proposal. Somehow it didn't even have anything about nuclear weapons in it. How could he ever accept anything like that? That's a preposterous notion. And the Iranians know that. They are just buying time. I firmly believe that they are just trying to straggle this out as long as they can. And then they're hoping, okay, maybe in the midterms, there'll be Democrats in power. They'll try to impeach Trump. I bet you Al Green will do it on day one, the guy with the cane wagging, remember, during the State of the Union. And then, how about the guy with the bad hair, too, from Michigan, whatever his name, with the 5,000 syllables, Sri Lanka Lubadu, right? That guy, right? So between both of them, there's like, I'd say before lunchtime, he'll be impeached with one of them. At least they'll introduce articles before lunch, maybe by the end of breakfast. So that's what you have there. And then they're trying to hope, okay, well, maybe there'll be a Democrat president at some point. Maybe the next one will be a Democrat. And they will just try to stall. That's the plan. And President Trump knows it, and the world knows it. Also, by the way, President Trump also talking about Mayor Mamdani. Now, these new protests that we have seen have been outright disgusting. They were breaking last night when we were on the show, and now we have a lot more details about it. This last protest, this anti-Semitic one, it's the second one in less than a week, second one in 6 days, this one in New York City, this one in Brooklyn. And there were a number of people who were arrested. And I was looking at the video. The video is downright chilling. You see these masked pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic, vile protesters that are like punching and screaming at little Jewish kids, grabbing a little Jewish girl's hair, throwing her, it looked like almost against a car. These people have no scruples. They have no morals. They're marching down the street, chanting death to Israel. They're just downright not vile and anti-Israel. I contend they're anti-American. They are so just vicious. And the fact that they think that they're emboldened enough that they feel they can go in front of these synagogues and Jewish facilities without reprisals. And only 4 of them got arrested. There were several hundred people. So what happened to the other, say there were 400 out there. What happened to the other 396? How come they weren't arrested too? Because I could see just even on the video, there was a lot of very destructive, dangerous action. And Mayor Mamdani, crickets today. Absolutely nothing. That's a disgrace. And that completely, I believe, emboldens these protesters because they know that they have a guy in the mayor's office who's saying, keep on going. That's great stuff. That's free speech in his mind. That's a beautiful sign of protest. That's like flowers in the bloom in the springtime. That's what he thinks it is. We look at it like, a death warmed over. To me, when I see that, I think it's frightening. I think it's chilling. And I'm not Jewish. But I know what that means. It's horrible. My father grew up right outside the Warsaw Ghetto. My father saw the Holocaust. We don't want to see that again in modern times. It is chilling. And I cannot even imagine what some of those Holocaust survivors who are part of these different Jewish organizations, when they see that on the streets of New York, and then they see a mayor who doesn't have the cojones to crack down on it, that is shameful. So President Trump was asked about Mayor Mamdani in general. He was being very kind. I give President Trump a lot of credit. He shows a lot more restraint than I do when it comes to Mayor Mamdani. Oh, he's a nice guy. He's this, he's that. He is a nice guy. I met him. He has a nice smile. I agree with that. But he should be being a leader. At this moment, if he came out, first of all, nobody would believe him because of the comments he's made and the likes that his wife has made on all these social media posts. But at least better late than never. And so far, it's been never. So here is Mayor Mamdani. Here is what President Trump had to say about him and also about New York City, because Sid was talking with him and saying, hey, what do you think about the direction of New York City in general, not just the protests, but in general? And here is what the president told Sid.
New York is a mess right now, and it's not really working, President Trump, under Kathy Hochul. And look, we need a lot of help at both the state and the city level. You know, I know that you've had two very nice meetings with Mayor Mamdani in the Oval Office, for example, but I got to tell you, President Trump, above and beyond all the anti-Semitism stuff, and, you know, obviously you talked about him destroying the city financially, we got a major issue in this city with the police, and you're a law and order president. You do an amazing job with that. You've made cities safe, President Trump, that were really unsafe right before you took office. This guy can't stand the cops. I mean, I've got sergeants and detectives and all kinds of people. They are leaving. The cops are leaving this city. How do I make an argument for that?
Well, I never knew whether or not that was, real or not real. Maybe it's a political. I don't understand that political rhetoric because I think it's not good politics, frankly. But look, he came down to the Oval Office twice. He's a nice person. I really like him. He's a nice guy. But you can't tax people out of New York. When you tax people out of New York, you never get them back. They think they're going to get them back. Like she's trying to get them back now. You don't get them back. Once they leave, they're gone. And, I mean, you won't have a city left. You won't have a state left. It's a very dangerous thing that's happening right now.
Yeah, and they are driving people out in droves. That's one of the things that President Trump said he is very concerned about. And he talked about Ken Griffin, of course, the big hedge fund guy who essentially said, you know what, you start doing these taxes on second homes. Mayor Mamdani just unveiled his executive budget a few hours ago. What does it have? A tax on second homes. And he stood in front of a big sign that says tax the rich. Like, he might as well just say, I'm going to drive all businesses out of New York. Doesn't that sound great? That's essentially what he's saying. And President Trump knows the repercussions of Mamdani's plans. Take a listen.
Do you know Ken Griffin, Mr. President?
I do.
I figured you did because he's a very successful man, a great man just like you. And he wants to do a $6 billion project right here on Park Avenue. And who loves Park Avenue more than you? And you've got the mayor, this guy outside of his residence, and he does a whole film. And Ken Griffin goes above and beyond the fact that he just humiliated me. And I'm a billionaire looking to spend money in New York City. It's unsafe. He's doing a video from the front of where I live. And now Ken Griffin is thinking about taking that $6 billion project for a city, President Trump, that's $5.4 billion in debt, and taking that to Miami. How does that make sense?
Well, I do know Ken, and Ken's an amazing businessman, one of the best, and you don't want to lose people. He also pays a lot of taxes, like me. Right. We pay a lot of taxes, and when you lose people like that, it's sort of not recoverable. Always you say something's recoverable, right? But it's not recoverable. Then they build something else. They're going to be there for 30 years. They don't come back, and you've got to do the opposite. You've got to cherish them. You got to bring them to the office. You got to meet them. You have to have dinner with them. You have to convince them not to leave. You're going to make their life great. You're going to help them with their building, with their project. You got to do it. And I don't know if it's not hard to do, but maybe it is for some people. But you don't want to lose people like Ken. That would be a big loss for New York.
That would be a huge loss for New York. But Mayor Mamdani seems to want to telegraph it. I could not believe, again, just a few hours ago, he's standing in front saying, yeah, we're going to be doing that tax on second homes like Ken Griffin's. It was just that advertisement where he was literally standing and saying, "This is Ken Griffin's home." And Ken Griffin was like, "How dare you show my home in some ad and blast me and vilify me when I have done so much for jobs in New York at that 350 Park Avenue that Sid was talking about, doing a lot of charity work." I mean, he's donated, I think it's like 400 or 500 million with an M dollars to charity. And now you are driving that guy out and driving so many others out, and you're telegraphing it. You are bragging about it. The one thing I can say about Zoran Mondani is he said it on the campaign trail, "I'm going to tax the rich," and he is socking it to him. And he is socking it to New York in so many ways. 1-800-848-9222. Everybody, I'll take your calls when we come back here on The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
President Trump en route to Beijing for what will be a history-making conference. And, of course, lots of problems here in New York with so many of these different protests, not just in New York City, but around the country. And you've got these soft on crime, easygoing, soft on Hamas mayors that I think facilitate and certainly embolden a lot of them. Let's go to Al in Yonkers on line 4. Al, your thoughts tonight?
Yeah, hi, Rita. Thanks for taking my call. I just want to say the president, in regards to the China trip, there's a lot at stake. I'm sure, and most people who are following the news, that the president will wait to see what he does with Iran after he talks to President Xi and the members of his inner circle, to get a feel if they'll help us out. And I'm sure if they do help us out, they're going to want us to make some concessions on Taiwan. And I think the president, which I don't blame him, he wants to get this Iranian situation taken care of because it's starting to be a distraction.
But the thing he's got to be careful, Al, and I hear what you're saying, because, yes, he would like to wrap up Iran. He just doesn't want to make a bad deal vis-a-vis Taiwan. Also, we need the semiconductors from Taiwan, so he's got to be careful what the deal is.
Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Washington, D.C., and really across America, because this week is National Police Week. It's a time of remembrance. It's a time of reflection and gratitude for our law enforcement officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice, as well as those who continue to serve. By the way, the origins of National Police Week trace back more than 60 years and have grown into one of the most significant annual observances by law enforcement. By presidential proclamation in 1962, then President John F. Kennedy signed the public law designating May 15th as Police Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls as Police Week. The Police Week now draws tens of thousands of people to Washington, D.C., including many of my friends are there, also survivors and supporters, all coming to the nation's capital each May with different events honoring our great men and women in blue. Also, by the way, communities across the nation are also holding their own observances, ensuring that the sacrifices of law enforcement and their families are never, ever forgotten. And, of course, we love our men and women in blue. And I think every day should be National Police Day. Thank you for your great service. And everybody, we are talking about President Trump now traveling to China. And this is a high stakes meeting, as Al was just saying from Yonkers. Let's see what the deal is. You know, she is not going to try to help with Iran and not expect anything in return. The question is, what will he ask? And what will President Trump agree to? And what will he say? Maybe he'll just say, sorry, we don't need you. We're already decimating Iran's Navy. We're decimating their Air Force. We control the straits. Maybe we don't really need you, China. It sure will be a very interesting discussion. And President Trump also seeing what's happening with the midterms, because, of course, we're heading into a big election time. Now, there's been some big news that came forward from the Virginia State Supreme Court helping Republicans. There was also a big decision last night. We talked about it with Alabama. That was with the U.S. Supreme Court. Now South Carolina's looking at it. We know that Florida obviously has made some changes. Texas is making changes. All of the map, the redistricting map, the voting map looks really good for Republicans in a big, big way. And yet Democrats at every turn are trying to undermine this president. I mean, I was watching Chris Murphy earlier today, Senator Chris Murphy, and he said to Pete Hegseth, how are you guys going to get through this? You're going to keep fighting? Why don't you just hurry up and get this over with? He was actually pushing for almost military action, which is exactly opposite of what Chris Murphy was pushing for like a week or two ago, because now the new political drumbeat is to say, oh, well, President Trump is hurting gas prices. He's hurting American families. Why is he dragging this out? How could he do this to sweet grandma under the bus? That's essentially what he's saying. I mean, they will not support the president in any shape or form. He's about to go on this major meeting, and you see a whole bunch of them criticizing President Trump at every turn, undermining him, essentially hoping that it doesn't go well. I mean, it really is disgusting. And in fact, I want to play cut number 18, because this is Chuck Schumer from New York, Senator Chuck Schumer, who may not stay as a Senate Majority Leader, if they can get the Senate back in their hands. Remember, right now, he is the number 2 guy there, but he would love to go back and be the majority leader. And a lot of people are saying, no, it may not be you this time. There may be somebody else. So he keeps trying to say the craziest, kookiest things. So the far left of his party will say, thank you, Chuck Schumer. Maybe we'll keep you. But here he is blasting Trump about China. He's on the way in Air Force One at this time to go hopefully change the course of history. But that's not good enough for Chuck Schumer, who's Jewish. He's the highest ranking Jew, by the way, on Capitol Hill. This guy, President Trump, had the guts to take on Iran, which is, of course, the biggest nemesis of Israel. But it's not good enough for Chuck E. Cheese Schumer.
There's an old saying that only Nixon could go to China. But soon they'll say only Trump could sell out to China. Xi Jinping has Donald Trump salivating at the prospect of $1 trillion Chinese investments in America that would threaten America's supply chains, threaten economic independence, threaten national security. Strengthen China at the expense of American strength. Donald Trump wants a deal with China so badly he could sell out on American manufacturing. He could sell out on chips. He could sell out on Taiwan, which produces many of these chips. He could sell out on AI and on any number of grave issues that will determine who dominates the 21st century. Right now, again, to get his photo in the newspapers and try won't work to raise his very low poll numbers. He's going to sell out to China. We can't let Trump willingly give China our superior American technology, or allow him to serve Taiwan to the Chinese Communist Party on a silver platter, just so he can get the satisfaction of saying he made a deal.
And speaking of sellouts, let's not forget that it was Chuck Schumer who actually was trying to sell out Israel and America. Remember, early part of the war, right after October 7th, he's the one who was talking about maybe Netanyahu shouldn't have a future. He was undermining Netanyahu. Again, he's the senior ranking Jewish leader on Capitol Hill. And clearly it was at the behest of Biden because Biden didn't know what to do after all of that. And he was trying to undermine Israel because Israel wanted to go full throttle. Biden was trying to hold them back, remember? And so he comes out and was basically selling out Israel, which was disgusting. And that said everything to me about Chuck Schumer. Meantime, President Trump, in our interview with my colleague Sid Rosenberg of WABC Radio, here is what he told Sid about the Democrats and their bash Trump derangement syndrome, TDS on steroids.
I mean, look, you said it just yesterday. It was brilliant. You called them Democrats. And I don't know if they're just stupid or evil. I got to tell you, President Trump, they're worse than stupid. They're worse than dumb. They're literally evil. I said this to you last time. I think Democrats are actually happy that 2 people died in Minnesota just so they can break your chops every day about ICE. I think they're happy about that. I don't think they really care about lives lost. The Democrats are not just stupid. They're really very evil, bad people.
Well, they get bad policy. You know, I don't know if you saw I put up something the other day on Truth. Truth is doing great. And I put it up on Truth. It's nice. So I call it nice. I had the word national in front. I call it nice. And everybody loved it, but I'm not sure that the guys liked it because, you know, I think they like their image of being strong, and they've done a great job. You know, they've done a great job, but I love the word nice. And so I said, if we called them nice, that would really ruin the radical left, you know, the media, the fake news media. Every time they mention the name ICE, they have to say nice. And I think they'd go crazy one another too. But you have to get the guys that are wearing that badge, put it on there. But I love that idea.
Breaking news.
And by the way, I love that idea about nice, too. Can you imagine? The nice agent showed up outside of this detention facility. The nice agents showed up at this protest. Can you imagine the mainstream media being forced to say the nice agents, the nice ones, the nice ones? Oh, my goodness. That will just absolutely crush them. But speaking of breaking news in terms of immigration, this is really a doozy, guys. And you know how much we used to talk about Alejandro Mayorkas, who, to me, absolutely should have been removed. Remember, he got impeached in the House. And then it came over. Speaking of which, it was Chuck E. Cheese Schumer who's the one who shot it down. He wouldn't even let it get to a vote. Remember when it got to the Senate? He just kind of like pushed it aside and made sure that it never even got to a vote. This guy absolutely should have been removed. It's disgusting what he did to America, along with Joe Biden when it comes to the immigration policies. And this ex-DHS chief, Alejandro Mayorkas, is now expressing, he's at a public forum. And remember how he came out before and was always saying the border's secure, and you'd see like football fields full of people like crossing the border, and you knew it was just a bunch of hogwash. And it was like, no, it's secure, everything's fine. He knew it wasn't. And so now he's coming out at this facility. It's the Politics Security Summit. And he essentially says that he laments the delay, he says, in the immigration enforcement until the very end of the final year. What a surprise, of Joe Biden's term. Right as he's walking out the door, maybe I'll consider sealing the border. And he didn't even seal it back then. I don't even know what he's talking about in terms of the numbers, because it was such a far cry from even the final months of Joe Biden to day one of President Trump when he signed the executive order sealing the border. But now he's having regrets, saying maybe we should have really cracked down sooner. Thanks a lot. After 10 to 20 million illegals came into this country, and the nice agents now have to locate them and try to deport them. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Michael in New Jersey on line 2. Go ahead, Michael. Hey, Michael, are you there?
Oh, yep.
Yeah, hurry up, Michael. We don't have all day. I mean, I'd love to have you take all your time, but sorry.
Okay. Yeah, what I wanted to say is World War II, why were the Germans so successful in conquering every single country that they went into? Simply, like take Poland. Poland sent the Polish soldiers to fight the Germans, but they didn't fight the Germans. They fought German tanks. The Germans stood behind the tanks. That's what Trump has to do. Send in Americans in tanks. This way, he says, I kept my word. There are no American boots on the ground. There are German tracks on the ground. And behind those tanks, you put the Iranian people that are against their government to mop up what the German tanks don't destroy. Because the way he's doing it, this is going to go on and on. It's never going to end.
All right. So hang on, Michael, 2 or 3 points. First of all, my father dealt with those German tanks, so I can speak about what happened in World War II pretty clearly, because my father was a young teenager when those German tanks were heading right towards him. And you're right. They were fighting with Molotov cocktails and sticks on a good day against those tanks. So you're right. They were outnumbered and outgunned exponentially, and it was brutal. But you just talked about a very important point about sort of the Iranian people behind the tanks. Now, 2 things. Let's just be realistic. I don't think the American public wants to see, hardware on the ground like that, because that still means troops on the ground, whether they're in a tank or not in a tank. And a crazy fanatic with a rocket launcher, it looks like, is who was responsible. Remember when those choppers went down? Remember, we already had those choppers that went down, the 2 missing guys. Luckily, we found them, thank God. Remember that one who was up in the mountain range for like 2 days or whatever? And thank goodness we rescued them. And they just think it was like a ragtag guy, like El Babadaba sitting out there in the mountain range, and he had a shoulder-fired missile and got lucky. So, you can do the same thing on a tank. So let's be honest. I don't know if the American public wants to see any form of that. Remember, our hearts sank when we had those 2 missing guys. Luckily, we got that first one right away. The other one we got, and they were okay. And that's an amazing technology of the United States and decoys and all that other stuff that they had to do. But you put a couple thousand men and women on the ground, it's a whole different element. And that's why President Trump is trying to do it carefully. But he's also saying he can do a lot of it from the air. The other thing, Michael, you know what you didn't mention? You did not mention the Israelis. The Israelis, I bet you right now they've got tons of Mossad agents all over the place. It's no surprise. Remember when that whole thing happened where they took out the leaders? I'm not even talking now. I'm talking in the earlier go round because they have the best intel ever. Of course, they took out 40 in this go round too as well. But they took out that guy who was staying like in a hotel visiting somebody in his hotel room. And, it was like, oh, I'm taking a shower. Oh, I guess it's my last shower. So I'm all for that. And the Israelis are willing to actually do a lot more adventurous stuff on the ground because they know it is their existential survival. It really is the world's survival when you're dealing with the nuke, but it's right there in their backyard. So what about them, Michael?
Yeah,
what about them?
Yeah, but he's holding them back. They would go in.
They would. Well, I agree. I think it's time to unleash both. But I don't think tanks. I don't think U.S. tanks or even rented German tanks. Michael, you there?
Yeah. I'm still saying if he can't keep up doing what he's doing, he's not getting anywhere. He keeps saying it's going to happen, it's not happening. They keep selling him a bill of goods. They keep lying to him. This is going to go on, and you know what's going to happen? In November, we're going to wind up losing the House and the Senate, and if that happens, Trump is cooked because they'll do nothing but keep impeaching him. They have to do something now to break the stalemate. Something's got to be done, and what he's doing now isn't working. So you have to be more dangerous. Yes, you might have to send in troops on the ground, but you tell them the troops are I'm going to protect them the best I can. But to continue fighting the way we are, we're not getting anywhere. And I'm terrified that Trump will lose the House and the Senate because once he does, it'll be impeach, and it'll never come to an ending. You have to take chances. It's at the point now it wasn't as easy as he thought it would be. All right, this is going on and on. It's got to stop. It has to stop.
I agree. Now, here's my thought, Michael. And I think, look, he has a master plan. I don't think it's as much of a stalemate as you think. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. and he could really go in and pound it tomorrow if he wanted to. My thought, and I don't know, I don't have inside information on this one, but my thought is that President Trump is going over to China. He's going to see what the Chinese president says, because he can certainly put, if anybody can on Iran, it's China, it's Xi. So he's going to see what he can present. And if he doesn't present something acceptable or do some dramatic change, because he's the kind of guy who could say, hey, pick up the phone while we're here and let's make it happen. Both of them have that ability. So if he can't do something dramatic in that meeting, vis-a-vis Xi, and I'm talking about, it is a powerful role that he has over Iran. There is no doubt about it. That's the only person who can really determine Iran's future outside the mullahs. Then I believe Trump is going to go full throttle. And it might even happen as soon as he leaves Chinese airspace. It might be on the way home. Hey, let's do our action plan. And I think it's going to be a pounding bombing, not just from the U.S., but from Israel, a coordinated effort. I don't think we're going to see U.S. tanks on the ground, but I do think we're going to see massive devastation. And I agree. I think President Trump knows the time is crouching and it keeps coming, and he doesn't want this to drag on either. On the other hand, he also wants it to be effective. The last thing he can do is walk away now and having spent all this money and still have these monsters still in power. He cannot afford to have that either, Michael. So I agree. I think the next few days are going to be really telling, Michael. 1-800-848-9222. And we will continue, everybody, with your calls here on The Rita Cosby Show right after the break.
It's The Rita Cosby Show. This is The Rita Cosby Show.
Kash Patel and Chris Van Hollen going at it over booze. We're going to get into that one. Kash Patel had a good zinger back to Margarita Chris Van Hollen. Remember him hanging out there in El Salvador with the father of the year, Kilmar Abrego Garcia? Well, it came back to bite him big time today on Capitol Hill. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Red in New Jersey, line 2. Red, you're here on The Rita Cosby Show. Go ahead.
Rita, real quick, Ken Griffin is not a saint. He is the biggest criminal of them all. He runs Citadel Securities and 600 LLCs and does nothing but naked short Wall Street, which is the retail investors and institutions. Constant manipulation of many stocks.
Red.
No stock settlement.
Red.
Listen,
Red. No. Red. You got to calm down because I'm seeing red, okay? So here's the deal. You don't think somebody like that who is creating just on this 350 Park Avenue project, he was creating, I think it's like 17,000 jobs. He donates $500 million to charity. I mean, that's a lot of money. Nobody's a saint. I'm not saying anybody's a saint, but I certainly think he is a major contributor to New York, and any state would be lucky to have him with all the job development that he does and all the charities. You don't see that, Red?
How about all the jobs he made people lose when they're investing, and he's manipulating the stock price of the Citadel Security and the 600 LLCs that are constantly naked shorting the stock
Red,
market.
did you lose money? Did you invest in him? Is this like a personal gripe? Yes.
Reach out to Patrick Byrne. He will explain naked shorting and Citadel Securities.
All right. Well, we'll hear from him.
The following is a paid issue advertisement.
If the vote count is accurate, then how come the number of voters is different? And if it's not accurate, then why was it certified? We are suing Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections for a conspiracy against fundamental rights. This is not about who won. It's not about what party. It's about the fact that they don't care about your rights.
Paid for by RealAmerica.vote, a DBA of New York Citizens Audit Civic Fund, Incorporated.
Go to RealAmerica.vote.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistant's assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.